let's jump into IntelliJ, which is the environment we're going to be programming in for the rest of the class. And so what I'm going to do here is I've just created the array of dogs that you did in your exercise. So it's just this array right here. And when I run this, it should print out an array of dogs which has 20 and 22. But as you'll note, it's actually just printing out all of the array. Okay. So the way that this works, the reason this is happening is that our function larger than 4neighbors is supposed to return only the big dogs, the ones that are bigger than their 4neighbors. So this is just the code that gets those and prints them. But right now, the function simply returns dogs. So we need it so it returns only the dogs which are larger than their 4neighbors. Okay? So it's clear that what we need to do is something like iterate over all the dogs, right? That seems very natural. But then it's a little tricky because I need to iterate over the neighbors. So one way I could do this may not be your first thought, but it's like, well, if we do -2 to 2, then this should iterate over the neighbors of the dog. So for example, we could call this neighbor dog. That would be dogs I plus j. Okay. Now we run into a problem immediately. We kind of see it here, that there's like a -2 thing where like if this starts as 0 and this is -2, well, then it can go negative, right? Like this could be a negative value. In fact, if I look at this, it says there's a potential that the array can go out of bounds. So one of the things that's great about IntelliJ is it warns you about things like this. But I don't know, yeah. So it's something I need to deal with. So I could do something like if I plus j is less than 0, then what should we do? Well, actually what we should do is I guess we are going to continue, right? We're too early. So we're just going to say that and continue along. Okay, so we've at least handled if we go off the array on the other side. Okay. But then we also, of course, have the issue like, what if it's greater than or equal to dogs.length? Okay, well, in that case, I guess we can, well, we're at the end of this loop, right? We don't need to be iterating anymore, so I can say break. And so I have this code here to basically handle going out of bounds. Okay. Already this code is getting pretty complicated, and helper functions are going to make our life easier, but let's just keep trying to write it. Okay, so now we get the neighbor dog. What do we do now that we have this neighbor dog? I guess what we can do is if, well, the pattern might be something like this. I'm going to say Boolean, let's say largest, and by default we'll say that we are the largest dog. But if it's ever the case that the neighbor dog's weight in pounds is greater than or equal to dogs dot, or let's see, dogs I, that's the current dog, dot weight in pounds, then we will say largest equals false. Okay, and then once we get to the end, so here in theory, what all this code does is when it's done, the largest value is true only if the current dog is the biggest. Now there's actually one other little bug that I've spotted here that like you may not have noticed, which is like, well, what if j is equal to 0? We don't want to compare the neighbor dog to ourselves because, you know, like we're gonna be greater than or equal to ourselves. So we actually also need to say for j equals 0, we should continue. And the code's getting complicated. And then we still have to do more work. Now, I think this is all just a little messy. And the problem is that we were just trying to like make it up as we went along. And we ended up with something that is, you know, I'd say a little clumsy. Okay, we can make this work, but let's try again. Okay, so that's the end of this video. This is me trying to do it without thinking about a strategy, without thinking about a specific thing I'd like to do. I just started writing code, and I ended up with special cases, and it ended up being a little complicated and a dangerous way to go. So next video, we're going to start all over and do it differently.